it's like the tide comes in, it's very prosperous, and then, their tide goes out. But it does come back in. You can't panic that just because the tide went out, it's not going to come back. When it does come back, are you prepared?
Chad Peterman here, and you are listening to Can't Stop the Growth, a platform for leaders and teams to grow and thrive. We highlight the importance of personal development, pursuing greatness, and always chasing your potential. Let's get into it. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today I have a mentor of mine on the show. I met her, it's been quite a few years ago, but still use a lot of her teachings, a lot of the lessons that she uses in or displays in her writing, speaking, whatever it may be, to really safeguard our mindset and how we can use mindset to overcome tough times, how we can use our mindset to eliminate fear and overcome it when we want to achieve our goals. We know in the home services industry, as we wade into 2024, it could be a lot like 2023. And I'm sure a lot of you out there are thinking, well, 2023 was kind of tough. It was a lot tougher than the previous couple of years. How am I going to arm myself with the mindset to win in 2024? So I think our guest is going to help us do that. She has helped me over the years. I'm extremely grateful to have met her and to have had the privilege to learn from her. So without any further ado, would like to welcome to the show Miss Lee Milteer. Welcome to the show, Lee. Excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here, and thank you so much. And thank you for all the kind words. I deeply appreciate that.
I can't believe it's probably been, at least 4 or so years since we last met in person. But as I said, continue to utilize your stuff and talk about that. Why don't you, just to get us kind of kicked off, maybe give the listeners a little bit of your background? Obviously, you're not from the home services industry, but I think a lot of your expertise can really help anybody. And so that's why I'm excited to bring it to our listeners today.
Well, I'll give you, since it's a long story, I'll give you the short view of it. I grew up in Chuckytuck, Virginia, which is in the middle of nowhere in Southwest Virginia. My dad was a farmer rancher. I was a complete rebel in high school. In fact, the whole school had to have a meeting about me because in all the classes that they would teach something, I would be the one going, well, how do you monetize that? Or how do you leverage that? I'm going to be an entrepreneur. What you're teaching me doesn't seem to be very helpful. So they threw me into the best thing that could have ever happened to me, which was I was the assistant in the library. And within 3 days, Chad, an entrepreneur came into the library with a big box of books. And since I was new, I get all the grunt work stuff to do. I got to put all the books away. And on the top of that list was Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz, The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So I read those at 16. And this was the greatest thing that ever happened to me, Chad, because growing up in Eastern Virginia, in the middle of nowhere, old-fashioned parents who didn't believe women could do very much in life, but, followed traditional things, which are great, but wasn't my thing. Those books gave me a peek into the personal power that we all have, that our school system, our educational system, the government, the military, the medical, nobody gives you this information that you are creating reality with your thoughts, and that, what you focus on expands. So I survived high school, went to college, and literally started it was called Background Music Service of Tidewater, where I was a vendor who put in music services, phone services to all commercial buildings. So I actually learned to deal with people who, we are of service. And so this was a great experience for me, because my big thing at the time was teaching our repair and installation people that just because it was hard to install it meant nothing to the owners, because we sold it, you install it kind of thing. There are no excuses. It has to go in. So that's a little bit of a background with me. As you know, I ended up becoming a professional speaker and trainer. I've written 17 books as of today. 5 have been a bestseller. I've written over 100 educational programs, and my message goes out to about 250,000 people around the world every month with the people that I service. So I came from a blue collar, working family, believe in creating because you have the opportunity. You cannot allow the external world to break you or control you.
Thank you for sharing that, and I think it kind of sets the stage for what our listeners can expect in listening to this episode. The one thing that I'd like to touch on and like you to kind of talk about, because to me you're probably one of the foremost experts in kind of the mindset and understanding of how our thoughts kind of really project what it is that we're going to become, what we're going to do, and all of that stuff. I would say the one thing that, we kind of talked about kind of pre-show here was the role that fear plays and how we can overcome that fear in the stories that we tell ourselves. If you don't mind, tell us some things. I guess maybe kind of give a little background in how you kind of view kind of fear and what that is, and what are some things that listeners, if they're experiencing that fear, if there's doubts or things of that nature as they're kind of on their journey, things that they could do to maybe overcome that, or just kind of deal with it, because we all have fears for sure.
I think that is the most challenging thing that all self employed people really have to come to grips with, is that you have to deal with fear almost every single day. I mean, just think about it on an average day. You know, we have a problem in our business. We have a little slight fear. Is anybody going to show up to take care of that? Being self employed is literally one of the more challenging occupations anybody could take. However, we don't really have a choice because I consider myself completely unemployable. I have to be self employed, and I'm very happy about that. And conquering fear, you got to understand what the definition of fear is. Fear is fantasized experiences appearing real. Now, I want all of us to go back into our childhood and realize that the number one tool that everybody in, say, education and medical and the different world, how did they control us as children? With fear. They actually controlled us with fear of, something's going to be taken away or you've been bad. So as a child, one of the greatest things that control that other people have, and the media is the one that's so great about it, is they're just always making people feel insecure, like they don't have enough information, they don't know what's going to happen. It really sets people up emotionally to believe that external things have power over you. And yet we deal with external things every single day. You have to limit the power that it has over you by, one, and you and I have talked about this a lot, is just shut down the media. Because I was in the media. I've had 3 television shows, one in Canada for a number of years, 3 in Virginia Beach, Virginia, where I live. And I experienced a lot of, let's say, behind the curtain. And the truth is that we know this to be true. We've heard it a million times. What bleeds leads. And just like newspapers, they've got to have some kind of, scary thing on the front cover of that. So you will pick it up and read it because your eyeballs are important. And your eyeballs seeing that fearful thing, sells their advertisers. If you entangle fear into your daily reality, for one thing, when you're afraid, you're going to make terrible decisions. You're going to second guess yourself. You're going to do things that you wouldn't normally do. It's going to come back and bite you. So when we allow ourselves to be controlled by fear, we're at such a disadvantage of making profitable, intelligent good decisions. Your job as a business owner is to be more discerning about what kind of information you allow to go into your computer. Because you know the old saying, garbage in, garbage out. When you allow people that you associate with to constantly be fanning the flames of, fear and doubt and being scared, that's going to affect your not only your electrical immune system, it affects the ability of your brain to actually tap into your own genius or your own knowledge, because now we're not acting anymore, we are reacting. And when we react, we don't come from power. And when you're a self employed person and you're running the show for a lot of other people, we have to remember of how to talk to them, not to make them frightened, but to reassure them, give them the right information. Because if we're scared, if we're worried, if we're pensive, that sets the tone in the energy field of your office and your company. The people around you pick it up. But the thing is that if we aren't holding ourselves together, now, how do you hold yourself together? You have to take charge of the caliber of information that you're thinking. So when you catch yourself saying, I'm afraid, or I'm nervous, or I'm worried about the future, you might want to pause and literally start asking yourself, is this emotion that I'm experiencing going to add to my business, to my joy, to my success, to my clients? Is any of this going to help, or is it actually hampering me for finding the right solution? So I use this. When I start to feel afraid or I don't know how to do something, I tell myself, I can find the correct solution here. I will find a person or a resource that can help me with this. I am smart. I am resourceful. I am creative. And I will find the right solution. Even though we don't have it this second, we're going to find it. I actually say those things repeatedly to my staff. When what hits the fan, everybody's freaked out. Somebody has to be the cool person who's observing it from a neutral perspective and realizing it's just a situation. This too is going to pass. We'll figure it out. And the other thing is, stop hanging around with those people in your life who are the doom and gloomers. And also stop hanging around with people who are so judgmental and, their way is the only way. We learn a lot from other people. And sometimes we learn, just because you act like you know what you're doing doesn't mean you actually know all the facts. One of my very first books was called Success is an Inside Job. And this is the core of what we're talking about today. That inside of you, everything you've ever read, heard, school you've gone to, mentors you've had, that information is lying within you. It just has to be called forth by asking yourself the right questions. Instead of asking, why is what hitting the fan today? A better question to reframe that might be, okay, well, this is an obvious problem. If I should find the solution to this problem, which I will, how could I monetize that solution, leverage that? Maybe that's a new product. Maybe that's a new service. In other words, our problems as entrepreneurs literally can turn into gifts of profit if we pay attention. And the other thing, because I'm assuming everybody you're talking to is a business owner, yes?
Yeah, the vast majority of them are, for sure.
Okay, well, let me do a little bragging for you. I, with all my heart, believe that we are a different breed of people than what I call the civilians. Civilians are people who have jobs, they get paychecks, they have security. We are the creators, manifestors, and people who make things happen. We get pleasure from accomplishment. Wouldn't you say that's true?
Absolutely.
So our nature is to grow, and I want everybody to know something about your self-image. our self-image of how we think about ourselves and what we think is possible is literally formed by the age of 7 years old. Now, well-meaning people in our life who loved us gave us some really obsolete bad information. And they often told us things about ourselves that prevents us today from really claiming that authority, that genius that's within us, because we have these old tapes that run in our head that you're not good at this and you're not good at that. And I just want to remind everybody that our job today is to seek out information like you're listening to Chad today, who has something worthy and valuable that can contribute to your life. That's where our focus should be because we're learners. And sometimes, guess what? Our mistakes are part of the learning. Failure is part of the learning. And I heard you say, Chad, in the beginning, and this is a true statement. We've had a tough time the last year. Actually, the last couple of years have been kind of challenging. And 2024 may be. However, if we go in with the intention of 2024 of, I am going to be creative here. I'm going to see new opportunities. We're going to show all the people that we service how much we care, how good we are, and we're gonna market more. We're going to do the things that make people appreciate us. So we're going to thrive. We are going to thrive. We're self-fulfilling prophecies. So even though it's a possibility 2024 is going to be a challenge, I'm still walking into that year with optimism that as I walk through the fire, I become stronger. As I walk through the challenges, I learn and I am able to then take those teachings and learnings that I've acquired and share them with other people. We're there for people to influence, and that is our job. So if you're not feeding your mind every single day with positive information, whether it's, however you want to get it from reading or podcast or stuff, you're not arming yourself every day with reminding your brain, no matter what happens, I am going to be successful. And because you intend it, you will start to enact on it because that is your self-image.
Lee, I can't thank you enough for sharing all of that. I think the biggest thing that I take away from that is just kind of a all-encompassing, kind of notion that we get to paint our own picture. We get to choose who we surround ourselves with. We get to choose how we're going to act each day. And, one of the messages I've been spreading around our organization as we get ready for a new year is, it's all really about focus and what it is that we focus. We can focus on the news and all the bad things that are happening and all the negativity, or we could listen to this podcast every morning and listen to all of your very wise thoughts, and that's going to put us in a better mood. I know that one of the things I do each morning that helps put me in a good mood is I write to my children. My kids are 5 and 2, so they won't be reading it for a hot minute, but there will be a time when they do. But essentially, I use that time to list out all the things that I'm grateful for. And then I write down a lesson that I may have learned the day before or something that I'm planning to do today so that I can get myself in the right frame of mind. And to me, that is one thing that you taught me. You mentioned your book, Success is an Inside Job. I've got that sitting right here on my desk. And it's something that I've read many a times. And not that I need to read it to like, oh my gosh, I forgot something. It's just putting me in that right frame of mind, thinking about the right things, rather than letting the world, and as you put it, the world that is really programmed to create fires, create disruption and drama that attracts attention of most, but you don't have to be that person. And so one of the things I'd like you to touch on, because it was one of the things as I was kind of preparing for this that I ran across that I think you do a great job of kind of explaining, and it's something I talk about a lot, is, dreaming big, not letting our past dictate what our future is going to be, and allowing ourselves to be creative and to have the confidence to dream big and then go chase that. Tell us a little bit about your philosophy on dreaming big and how people can really unlock or give themselves permission, is probably a better way to say it, of dreaming big and setting goals, regardless of what the outside world is telling us, setting big goals that we could go achieve.
I would love that. Okay, so first I'm going to touch on something you just said about you write to your children. You have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. I haven't seen you since you've had the 2-year-old, so congratulations. Okay, so you write to them. One of the things that when you were in, our big success group that I always shared with people on how to dream bigger is a technique called scripting. Now, this is where you're going to become a writer of your future. And there are no limitations to what you write, only you are the one limiting. And there are a couple of little things to remember as you write this. Nobody else is going to see it. So you have no, worries about that. This is private. You should not show this or tell other people about it. It is a form of goal setting that is very different than just writing your goals out. So what you want to do is you just, whenever you feel good about yourself, I get up really early in the morning. I have my coffee. The dog and the cat are sitting at my feet, and I just start writing about, I put it about a year in advance. So I would put at the top of the page, December 2024. And I would start it off, The Adventures of Lee Milteer. And then I start talking about all the things that are going to happen and that I'm going to create in 2024. And I write these out to the point that I get a feeling place inside of me that feels optimistic and excited about the future. And I catch myself, Chad, always sort of writing things like that I didn't expect to write, like, oh, I think it's time to start a new book. And, I could write a book on this and that and the other. And I talk about trips my husband and I are going to take, improvements I'm going to make to my house, just things in general. And I'm writing the story in the third person as if it's somebody else. I'm just the character in the play. And so when I go back and look at those, and I've done this for years and years and years, I'm going to tell you 95% of everything I've ever written has come true because I instilled it in my subconscious mind. I visualized it and I made it a priority. And I actually love this because I even shock myself, like, wow, could I really do that? How fun would that be? And everybody's got to realize that the person that holds you down is the person staring at you in your bathroom mirror. That you're the one that 80% of your thoughts are negative. You got a lot of negative self-talk going. You're giving a lot of other people a lot of credit they don't deserve about how they're accomplishing things. And you've just got to embrace life, that this is your adventure. And here's something about prosperity that my dad, as a rancher farmer, said to me. He said, prosperity is like, it's like the tide comes in, it's very prosperous, and then, their tide goes out, but it does come back in. You can't panic that just because the tide went out, it's not going to come back. When it does come back, are you prepared? Are you educated? Have you got the right tools? Have you got the right people? It's this whole excitement about you are co-creating your life because of what you focus in on. So in your life, if you start observing people who have lots of talent and a lot of education, but they can never go anywhere, you'll notice that their own belief in themselves is so weak and just not there. Their self-talk is bad. We're just avoiding that. Observe it and avoid it. Constantly look at life and say, what's the next adventure? Because here's the thing. No matter how the adventure turns out, you actually learn things. And as an entrepreneur, we're going to have experiences where I'll give you an example myself. When I first got into the speaking business, I had this bright idea, I thought at the time, that I would go to these college expos and that I would teach these kids on, interviewing processes and how to get a good job. Well, that was hilarious because none of those kids were interested in that whatsoever. They were interested in video and surfing and picking up girls and stuff like that. And so I spent all this money and time, creating, all this stuff to go for these colleges. And after the first one, I went, well, I think we've learned this is not my niche. Nobody was attracted to me. So what's next? But because I had done all that research, I was able to then monetize all that work, just working for different corporations, helping them teach that same skill, to people on how to get upward mobility in the company. So nothing is wasted for us. So be excited about the opportunities to have bigger dreams. So dreaming big is what gets us up in the morning. If we get bored, then what happens is if we lose interest in our own company or lose faith in our own abilities, it will show up immediately on the P&L statements. And so your company is an extension of you, and that you've got to be loving and kind to yourself and nurturing yourself. And then always, I tell this to everybody, every day, an observer of the rest of the world, scanning the landscape, for new pockets of inspiration and how to run the business better, how to make more how to make your customers and clients so thrilled with you that they cannot help but then, recommend you, because word of mouth advertising is our best thing we could ever had. I'm just saying, let's get a lot more focused about focusing on that our future is going to be great. And then when you look for the good, you see the good.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think these are all things that, people can do to set themselves up for success. I love your idea of kind of drafting what the future looks like. We do a document here every year, which I've spoke about on here, is it's called our vivid vision, where I draft what the company will look like in 3 years, and it allows time for me to dream big. Right? You can see all the opportunities that you have within the business. Hey, we could do this better, or hey, we could do that better, or this could be increased or grown, or different things like that. And it gives you the opportunity to write, hey, in 3 years, we fixed all those things. We got those things running. They're, humming, and we're working on different projects, and we got really smart people and all of these things. And what that does, and what you have taught me, is it begins to influence your subconscious. And I get we're talking to a lot of people in the home services industry. You may be, a former technician who's running a business. You may be a technician out there. And so subconscious, it caught me off guard too. Like, what are we talking about here? I don't know where's that at? What's going on? And I think the biggest piece of that is just understanding how your brain processes things and how you can influence, how you think about it. And then to your point in kind of crafting that vision of when you put it down on paper and you look at it and you relook at it, and it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We've written it. This will be, when we roll out in this next year, it'll be 7 years in a row that we've written one. And every year, like you said, it's amazing what gets accomplished because we dreamed it. Talk a little bit about the subconscious. I know you're a big believer in it and talk a lot about it in your books and everything like that. Can you tell the listeners about the power of your subconscious and how that helps and or could detract from our future success?
So I'm going to make it super easy. All right. So we have a conscious mind. That is the part of your mind that's deciding when you're at the menu, what you're ordering. Okay. And that's your conscious mind. Your subconscious mind is literally a recording device. It records everything you've ever felt, seen in your entire life since the moment of your birth. It doesn't make decisions. It actually engages in what the conscious mind tells it to do. So if the conscious mind is focusing on the gloom and doom, just fear, 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 then what happens is the subconscious mind is going to be alert at every little thing. And it's going to, like ping you with fear or doubt or insecurity. It's going to absorb you. So your subconscious mind is just collecting information. Now, I want to connect something very, very important to your subconscious mind, which every business owner needs to know, and that is your instincts and your intuition. So here's where intuition comes from. When you get a piece of information, that is your own brain scanning all the files that you've asked it a question, like you've asked some important question. Your subconscious actually takes the question from the conscious mind and goes into its file folders in your brain, and it looks for the answer. That's why as you're sort of talking to someone and you want to tell them about a certain thing, but you can't remember the name, and then 5 minutes later when you're not thinking about it, it pops up. It's like a slow computer just giving you the information when you're ready. But here's how we as business owners can use our subconscious mind. We can deliberately, with our thoughts, our self-talk, start to make a clear decision that we're going to talk to our subconscious mind like it's a small child. And we're only going to give it positive, good information to work with. We're going to be very discerning that we're not going to allow negative information, other people's attitudes about things, get in there, because then that will take over. So our good friend Dan Kennedy, who you know very well, Dan and I have been friends for a very long time. And one of the things we talk about all the time is this message I tell everybody, and you'll remember me telling you this. Before you go to bed at night, you obviously have to reach your hand up and cut the light out. On that place where that light is, you cut the light out, you should put a little sticky note, and it says, "What is my subconscious's job tonight as I go to sleep?" And so Dan and I use this to write speeches. So I will actually say to my subconscious, "I've got a speech with Chad tomorrow. I'm going to be on his thing. Please bring to my attention all of the things that would be beneficial for his group. Remind me of what books I should pull out or what I should do." And what happens is the subconscious, once you give it that directive, its job while you're asleep is to rummage through all your files in your brain. Look for that data and information that you've acquired in other places and bring it to the forefront of your conscious mind. Therefore, we should never make big decisions. If you can, there are times you can't, but if you can, 24 hours to think about a decision, to let your subconscious become involved in participating and making decisions as a business owner. And that you also listen, you asking yourself what would be the benefits of doing this and what would be the disadvantages of doing this, and let your subconscious really allow that to sort of stew like a soup, and where you get the information. But the subconscious mind is your servant. And so if you feed it information that it can feed back to you positive stuff, that would certainly be in your benefit. So that's where the subconscious, and this is a very short version of that, but our subconscious is our friend. We just have to make sure we are feeding it with what we want mirrored back to us for confidence and, handling any situation that comes our way.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. We'll put in the show notes where you can get a hold of Lee and her resources. And like I said, this is something that I've been doing since I've met her, and it truly does work. It takes practice. It is different, but it is something that can really unlock kind of the genius inside of you. We're all geniuses in some way, shape, or form. We just have to be able to unlock that particular talent within us. Lee, as we wrap up here, is there anything that, as it relates to kind of your teachings and different stuff that you'd like to leave the listeners with?
Sure. I want everybody to remember what I call life currency. You have 5 types of energy every single day as a business owner. You have really got to really pay attention to. And the 5 life currencies are mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, and financial. Those are your daily currencies. You're dividing your life up as a business owner using those 5 currencies. And I have a video series that I'm going to gift your people if they're interested. If they just go to 5typesofenergy.com and you spell FIVE, typesofenergy.com. There are 5 little videos, they're 5 minutes each. But like in the mental, it'll just show you how, if you're using your brain, how you're using it to your benefit or how you're using it to your detriment. The same thing with your physical, your emotional, your spiritual, and your money. And so I always give these out as a backup to get people to raise their understanding of literally how much power they do have once you use your innate abilities of those 5 types of energy.
Absolutely. Again, I will 100% recommend taking a look at her teachings and books and videos and all the resources that she so graciously created to help everybody. Lee, I cannot thank you enough. I know this is going to be extremely beneficial to our listeners. And, as you listen to this show, I urge you to take action. You are in control of your destiny. You're in control of your dreams. You can accomplish whatever you set your mind to. Where there is a will, there is a way. 2024 is a brand new year. It's time for brand new goals, and it's time to redirect your focus towards the things that you can control, the things that you know that you need to do to be successful. It may be more difficult, it may be harder, but focus in and program your subconscious to understand what you need to do on a daily basis, who you need to surround yourself with, and the thoughts that you need to be thinking in order to not stop your own growth and to not stop your business's growth. Until next time, listeners, we'll talk to you.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. As always, keep growing out there.